On the news tonight, Supreme Court dismisses PDP's suit against Shettima, affirms Bola Tinubu's eligibility for presidency. Three days to inauguration, President Buhari takes President-elect Tinubu on Aso Rock Villa tour. And President Buhari receives declaration of assets form from Code of Conduct Bureau. Glad to have you join us on News Now. I am Mary Kanu. We begin the news with legal matters as the Supreme Court has dismissed the suit by the People's Democratic Party challenging the alleged double nomination of Kashim Shettima, the Vice President-elect, and affirmed the eligibility of the President-elect Bola Tinubu to contest the presidential election held on February 25. The PDP had alleged that Shettima was still the Borno Central senatorial candidate of the All Progressives Congress on July 14 when he accepted the nomination for vice presidential candidate, claiming that the nomination of Shettima was in breach of the provisions of the Electoral Act. Justice Adamu Jauro, who read the judgment, said the PDP acted as a meddlesome interloper and is like a nosy busybody peeping into the affairs of its neighbors and lacks the local stand-eye to interfere in affairs of the ruling APC. In its ruling, the Apex Court said the PDP failed to show the potential harm it suffered or stands to suffer from the action of the APC and awarded the sum of 2 million naira against PDP and in favor of the respondent Tinubu, Shettima and the APC. Meanwhile, the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has said that the Supreme Court's dismissal of the case is not a setback to his quest for justice. Atiku, who made this comment on Friday, said the party's legal team are primed to robustly prove that the election of February 25 was fraudulent, did not comply with the constitutional requirements and the electoral guidelines of the Independent National Electoral Commission. And the dismissal of the suit instituted by the People's Democratic Party against the candidature of Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima by the Supreme Court has received various reactions from the public. Lending his thoughts on the developments, legal practitioner Liberal Soshoma said the ruling by the Supreme Court was an appropriate one, given that the PDP acted outside the ambits of the law. While describing the action by the PDP as a distraction, Oshoma agreed with the Apex Court that the PDP had no right to challenge the decisions taken by another political party.
When it has to do with infractions or perceived or alleged infractions of a political party, the law is that if you are not a member of that political party, you have no right whatsoever under the law to challenge such action. So, going to court and then a lawyer filing such an action. And like they always say, once money is involved, the lawyers will tell you, let us challenge the law. My challenge is, if the NBA, had consistently sanctioned lawyers, or the court take steps to sanction lawyers over frivolous applications like this, or matters like this that are clear, all in pursuit of fame, money, or the rank of sale, then most of these frivolous cases would be out of court. The best thing to do in such situations is to maybe convince a member or a colleague or a fellow contestant to challenge such a nomination or double nomination, if any, because there are in law, there's what we call, there might be right of action, there might be cause of action, there might be right of action, cause of action, but you also need to establish a right of action. What is your right in this action? In some cases, the law will even go further to ask how you will be affected by that action. So it is not enough to say, oh, yes, this candidate, in a pre-election matter, that there is double nomination, and so, or you presume that there is a double nomination, and not being a member of that party, you quickly rush to court. The only way a candidate, a member who is not a member of a political party, can challenge infractions or alleged infractions committed by a party is if, that candidate contests an election and, you in filing an election petition, one of your grounds will now be that this candidate was not qualified to contest in the first place on the grounds of so and so and so. But not being a member of the party, and then you just wake up one day and say, because you perceive that there is indeed some infraction and you're going to court, our law forbids it. Our law does not tolerate it.
And the outgoing president, Muhammadu Buhari, has taken the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu on a tour of the presidential villa, Abuja. The tour, which took place immediately after both men attended Jumat prayers inside the presidential villa, saw Buhari conduct Tinubu around the offices in the presidential villa, including the council chambers and press gallery, where State House correspondents are briefed on presidential activities. Earlier, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, had similarly taken the Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima on a familiarization tour of the OVP office at the presidential villa. And as his tenure in office nears its end, President Muhammadu Buhari has received an asset declaration form from the Code of Conduct Bureau at the State House. The form was presented to the president inside the presidential villa by the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau, Mohammed Isa, who led all the members of the bureau to his office. This is in compliance with the provision of the Constitution, which stipulates that all public officers shall declare their assets and liabilities on the assumption of office and at the end of their tenure of office. The president-elect, the vice president-elect, and 28 incoming governors and their cabinet members and state assembly members are also expected to submit their asset forms to the CCB. And still in the presidency, President Muhammadu Buhari has commissioned the international terminal of the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport, 2 other federal government projects in Kano and another in Zaria. The outgoing president expressed gratitude for commissioning the project 3 days to his official handover, calling on the incoming regime to sustain the tempo of development started by his regime.
The 4 projects we are commissioning today are critical for this time. I have no doubt that the incoming government, which is also a progressive one, will sustain the tempo of improvement. I am pleased to now commission 1. The Nigerian Navy Logistics College Dawakin Tufa in Kano. 2. The 3,000 capacity ultra-modern custodial center, Janguza, Kano State. And 3, new airport terminal building at Malam Aminu Kano International Airport, as well as 4, modern aircraft equipment and buildings at Nigerian College of Aviation Technology, Zaria, Kaduna State.
And the Ministers of Aviation, Interior and Defense who spoke at the event said the projects being commissioned are a testament of President Buhari's commitment to develop Nigeria.
We will not forget, Mr. President, how aviation has grown, both in size and capacity, and in efficiency, with focus on safety and security and facilitation or efficiency of the sector. There is a belief in civil aviation that aviation doubles in every 15 years. This has been established as scientific, as factual, and as true. But during your tenure, Mr. President, we have debunked that. Nigeria debunked that notion that aviation doubles every 15 years. Within the first 4 years of your administration, the number of passengers had tripled, the number of airports have been doubled, and the number of airlines have been doubled.
I must thank also the Controller General of Corrections for his diligence, innovation, and commitment to the task of transforming corrections. I, through him, thank also all the officers and men of the service who continue to work diligently and make sacrifice for the security and safety of all Nigerians. May I again use this opportunity to call on all officers and men of the service to be alive to their responsibilities, as security is a key component of every responsible government. This huge investment of government must be put to the best and most professional use to translate to democratic dividends.
These additional and necessary infrastructural requirements include a garment factory, hotel and suites, as well as material testing laboratories for the newly established Project School, among others, which are integral parts of logistic training. Consequently, the Navy Board in the last quarter of 2021 considered and approved splitting of the Nigerian Navy Finance and Logistics College, Orienta, into Nigerian Navy College of Finance and Accounts and Nigerian Navy Logistics College.
The First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Buhari, has described the wives of military personnel as agents of stability and development whose relevance in the society must not be overlooked. Aisha made this remark during the public presentation and formal launching of the book, The Journey of a Military Wife, authored by the President, Defense and Police Officers' Wives Association, Depowa Victoria Irabo in Abuja. Aisha Buhari, in a speech, called for a better support system for personnel of the armed forces and their spouses in and out of service.
The military and the government of Nigeria should consider addressing some of the issues in the book, which includes the need for better institutional support systems for officers and their families, such as the PTSD Center, the need for shorter tours for officers and soldiers, particularly those in the front lines, economic empowerment opportunities for wives, for example, the need for special job quotas for military spouses in public-private sectors within Nigeria.
I believe that that book certainly will help us to be able to reshape some of our policy documents to the effect that we'll have better families, better children, and have got a better nation. And I'd like to say that this is a worthy work for everyone. It's not because the author is my wife, but I'd like to say that all that I've spoken about this book holds true. I've read in fact, every single line, and even made some inputs to some of those. So there is a collection that I like to recommend to every one of us.
This book will be particularly helpful to would-be military wives. For us, we didn't have any opportunity of knowing what we will be going into as military wives. There was no book to read. We had little or no counseling. We fell in love and we married our military husbands. But today, would-be military wives would have books to read and be able to navigate their journey with ease, knowing what they will be expecting.
The Commandant General, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC), has advised the personnel of the Corps to brace up to the security challenges in the country, while reminding them of their vowed commitments in checkmating the activities of criminals in the country. The Commandant General, Ahmed Oldi, who spoke at the 2023 conference of the Commandant General of the NSCDC in Abuja, urged them to redouble their efforts and to remain resolute even in the face of daunting situations. Our correspondent, Emeka Amako, files in this report from Abuja.
Lasting solution to the myriad of security challenges bedeviling the nation, the conference is well attended by the senior officers of the Corps. With a focus to bring crime and criminality in the country to its knees, the NSCDC boss Ahmed Audi addresses the officers, emphasizing the need for improved security operations to effectively tackle the new dimensions of organized crime for a safe and secure Nigeria.
We should also have it at the back of our minds that if we will succeed in this war against insurgency, kidnapping and banditry, we must collaborate effectively and maintain cordiality with relevant stakeholders. You are therefore expected not only to sustain, but to improve on the existing robust relationship and synergy with the military, police, and other law enforcement agencies.
Relatedly, the Commandant General has issued operating licenses to 44 private guard companies, charging them to join the Corps in the fight against insecurity. While issuing the licenses, Audi warned that it was not for business purposes alone, but an opportunity to contribute their quota to the security of the nation.
While I believe that it is your business instincts that made you to endure the tedious process, you are to note that license is not for business profit alone, but an opportunity for you to contribute your quota to the security of our noble nation.
Responding on behalf of the newly licensed operators, the CEO of Visual Check Nigeria Limited vowed to demonstrate their unalloyed loyalty and cooperation with the Corps.
We want to assure you that we know, even before today, that licensed private security companies are not allowed to carry arms or provide arms training. This is completely out of our mandate, and we will strictly comply with it. We also want to assure you that of our unalloyed loyalty and cooperation at all times. And if there is any issue arising beyond our capacity or mandate, we will immediately let you know for your further appropriate action.
The 44 new private guard companies issued licenses brings the total number of licenses issued in the last 2 years to approximately 250. Granting of operating licenses to private guard companies is a development which has drawn commendations as the nation looks to restore peace and calm across the nation.
We'll take a break here, but still to come, Nigeria airplane finally lands in Abuja as airline operators fought move. We'll bring you details of the story and more when we return. Join us again. Welcome back. Here's a recap of our top stories. The Supreme Court has dismissed the suit by the People's Democratic Party challenging the alleged double nomination of Kashim Shettima, the Vice President-elect, and affirmed the eligibility of the President-elect Bola Tinubu to contest the presidential election held on February 25. Justice Adam Ojaro, who read the judgment, said the PDP lacks the local standard to interfere in affairs of the ruling All Progressives Congress. Meanwhile, the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has said that the Supreme Court's dismissal of a case against the APC is not a setback to his quest for justice. We also told you that outgoing President Muhammadu Buhari has taken the President-elect Bola Tinubu on a tour of the presidential villa, Abuja. The tour, which took place immediately after both men attended Jumat prayers inside the presidential villa, saw Buhari conduct Tinubu around the offices in the presidential villa, including the council chambers and press gallery, where State House correspondents are briefed on presidential activities. Well, in case you missed any of our news bulletin, or for more updates, you can catch us on Limex World TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria. On Facebook, that's TV360 Online. And now to COVID-19 stories and updates. The vote on whether to ban Member of Parliament Margaret Ferrer from the House of Commons for 30 days for breaching COVID-19 rules has been postponed. Ferrer, who spoke in Parliament while awaiting the result of a COVID test in September 2020, she then took a train home to Glasgow after learning she had tested positive. The MP was sentenced to 270 hours community service last year at Glasgow Sheriff Court after pleading guilty to a charge of culpable and reckless conduct. We'll take a break and return with business updates. Welcome back. It's time for business news and stock market report with Folashade Ogumide. Folashade, what's the latest?
Well, many thanks, Mary. A plane belonging to Nigeria Air, the proposed national carrier, has landed at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. The Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, would earlier announced plans to deliver Nigeria Air, the proposed national carrier, before May 29, 2023. Reacting to this development, domestic aviation firms under the aegis of Airline Operators of Nigeria have described the move as contemptuous and shadowy. The airlines, in a statement on Friday signed by Obiora Okonkwo, spokesperson of AON, kicked against the plan, saying such a move was not in the best interest of the country. But let's go for a short break now. Coming up is a review of the stock market. Just stay with us. The Nigerian Exchange Limited on Friday rebounded as investors gained 68 billion naira. This is as the all-share index and market capitalization appreciated by 0.29% to 52,973.88 and 28.9 trillion naira respectively. Now the market breadth was positive as 42 stocks gained in share price and 12 equities also suffered depreciation in their value. Now leading the gainers were National Swords Company and Konoy with a gain of 1 naira 40 kobo and 4 naira 34 kobo respectively. Now at the end of trading, the losers table was led by Sovereign Trust Insurance, which suffered a 7.69% loss to close at 36 kobo per share. Now in terms of volume, over 401 million shares were traded on the floor of the exchange and 6,520 deals worth 7.6 billion naira. Now some stocks on the global scene also had a bullish day. UK FTSE, US Dow Jones and Asian stocks Nikkei finished on a positive sentiment at 0.74%, 0.79% and 0.37% respectively. Now the struggles of the FTSE 100 index eased this afternoon as shares rose on reports the US is close to a debt deal. That's all we have for you on the business and stock market segment of news. Now back to you, Mary, for the rest of the news.
Thank you for the update, Folashade. Now on the global scene, as global leaders gather for the Horn of Africa High-Level Pledging Conference in New York, aid organizations are sounding the alarm and calling on governments to urgently escalate their response to the world's largest hunger crisis. More than 43 million people across Ethiopia, Kenya and Somalia continue to suffer through one of the worst droughts in recent history, caused by 5 consecutive seasons of poor rains. Speaking of the onset of the donor conference in New York, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for increased support for humanitarian plans for the region, which is currently less than 20% funded.
Crisis atop of crisis is threatening the lives and livelihoods of millions across the Horn of Africa. The longest drought on record, mass displacement after years of conflict and insecurity, skyrocketing food prices, and now chaos and fighting have engulfed Sudan, radiating instability across the entire region. Excellencies, we must act now to prevent crisis from turning into catastrophe. Make no mistake, action will make all the difference. Last year, thanks to generous support from donor countries, we delivered life-saving assistance to 20 million people, and we helped avert a famine. Now support must match the scale of the challenge. I call on donors and the international community to urgently fund the 2023 humanitarian response plan for the region. Today, they are just close to 20% funded, and this is unacceptable. Without an immediate and major injection of funding, emergency operations will grind to a halt and people will die.
And now in sports, Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah has said there is no excuse for the club missing out on the Champions League this season after Manchester United trashed Chelsea to confirm its place in the Premier League's top four. Manchester United's 4-1 win over Chelsea on Thursday ended Liverpool's hopes of earning a berth in Europe's Premier Club competition next season. The 30-year-old, who renewed a 3-year contract with Liverpool last summer, admitted to the fans that there was no excuse for the loss, adding that the team failed to meet expectations. And that's the size of our news bulletin. Thank you for watching. I am Mary Kanu.